Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our last show of January. It is January 27th, Tuesday. We normally record on Mondays, but the weather complicated a lot of things. I'm sure if you live on the East Coast, most of the United States, excuse me, that's not Florida, even parts of California. Um, we had a big snowstorm. Akron, Ohio got 14 inches of snow. We normally don't get that. We're not Buffalo, New York. That's not normal. So there was a big adjustment. So Bob was snowed in. I had to do 4 hours yesterday to get my driveway plowed by hand, and I want to thank one of my neighbors there for putting his borrowed snow plow there. Because, I shoveled. I didn't have a plow. And did the end of the driveway for me, and I really appreciate that. We don't really even know the guy. He saw me. He said, "I saw you shoveling there, man. I felt so bad." He said, "Because, this stuff was heavy. So, good thing I'm in physical shape. Because a couple of years ago, that would have been hell. That would have been hell on earth. So, that's good. But anyway, it is 10-cent beer night, the official sports show at 50bitchradio.com here in beautiful, cold Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And I am Seth. And again, this is for January 28th. We are filming on the 27th here. Our Field and Mogador High School game for tonight has been canceled. And Bob is not. It is just me today because Bob is not with me because we had mentioned a couple weeks ago he coaches Barberton Bowling. And he is awaiting word if his match is canceled, because if it's not, he's got to go out there. If it is, it just is. So, and they were going to let him know around the time we were recording here, so he told me just to go on by myself. So, the next game, and I don't know if that Field Mogador game is going to be made up, and it'd be nice for the station to cover that one because it's going to be a good one, but the next high school game, basketball that scheduled that Fifth Dimension Radio is going to cover will be next week, February 3rd, North at Springfield, and I know Springfield loves us to come down and host the games there, so they're going to be very thrilled to see us back. I don't think we have not been there this year for basketball. We did a few football games there, and that's one of the schools that said, just come on by anytime, we don't care. So they really like Fifth Dimension there, so that will be an interesting game between North and Springfield. Speaking of chaotic weather and interesting developments, I am going to lead things off with football. First of all, before we get to the Cleveland Browns, which I was hinting at, I do want to congratulate the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks for advancing to the Super Bowl, as we have a rematch of what we saw back in, I believe it was 2015. The hand the ball off game, where Marshawn Lynch marched down the field for the Seahawks, and he was one play away from getting the Seahawks to lead in potentially the Super Bowl. And they overthought it, and they told Russ Wilson to pass, play action, fake, and he threw an interception in the end zone, which led to the Patriots winning the Super Bowl. Now we have this matchup here. Okay, the rematch of that. Two different coaches, two different quarterbacks, all different situations, and oddly enough, you could put the Cleveland Browns in this discussion as far as building the team to get to this point. And let me explain that as one, okay, the New England Patriots, who's their head coach now? Mike Vrabel, Akronite, Walsh Jesuit graduate, okay? He was in the Browns front office last year. He was sitting there, just sitting there. Not saying he didn't do a job, but I'm saying the opportunity to get rid of Stefanski a year ago and promote him was sitting there, and they didn't do it. And do I think he would have done it? It's a toss-up, because if there's anybody he would have chose over the Browns, and I do think he would have taken that position with great, how should I say it? He would have been honored to take that position, okay? But I think because he played for the Patriots and he loved New England, I think he may have picked them over the Browns, and not just because they were a better situation either. It's literally just because he played for them and won Super Bowls there, okay? But, so, you have the Patriots here who, okay, they have Mike Vrabel now, who was with the Browns. They drafted 2 first-round quarterbacks since Tom Brady left. Okay, Mac Jones was the first one. Mac's going to be a key free agent to watch out for in the offseason. I'm not sure if he would give Cleveland the time of day, but he's going to go somewhere where he can play because he looked good in San Francisco when Brock Purdy was hurt. He looked very good. All right, but it didn't pan out in New England. So New England takes a swing at Drake May, with I think it was the 3rd overall pick, and I'm going by memory. That's why. And Drake May has played lights out, and Drake May is now in the Super Bowl. Okay, now you got the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, very similar situation to the Browns right now. A couple years ago, I should say. Okay. They recognized their defense was their strong point. They're like, we have this loaded defensive unit. We want to get a defensive mind coach. So they got Mike Macdonald from the Baltimore Ravens, who was their defensive coordinator. He comes in and he calls plays, too. Like, his defensive coordinator, who was interviewed for the Browns head coach job, did not make the next round of interviews, but he doesn't call plays. Mike Macdonald does. So, after 1 year with Mike Macdonald, they had a solid first season with him. They said, okay, the defense is great. We'll add to that depth and stuff in the draft and whatnot. We need to load up this offensive unit because we got 2 good running backs, but we need a permanent quarterback and we need more weapons for him. So, they go out and they get Sam Darnold, who had a fantastic year in Minnesota. They go out and get Cooper Kupp, who was a former wide receiver of the year, an MVP candidate a few years back. He may have won MVP. I'm going to have to look that up real quick. Anyway. And then at trade deadline, they get Raheed, let me pull up his name here, from the Saints, who was a great wide receiver, having a solid season, and added him in the mix with Jackson Smith-Njigba, former Ohio State Buckeye, and Cooper Kupp. Rashid Shaheed is who they added. So, and they had a solid offensive line. Or actually, they drafted an offensive lineman first overall, first round pick, I should say, in the last draft. Okay, so Seattle just recognized, look. We got what we need on defense. We just got to load up the offense now. Similar story to the Browns. The difference is they didn't have a good season this year, where Seattle's first season with Macdonald, they did. And so we'll get back to the Browns here in a sec. But, no, actually, we won't. Let's see. All-Pro. No, Kupp did not win MVP. But he was All-Pro, and he's already been a Super Bowl champion with the Rams and everything like that. So, he was wide receiver of the year that year, though. So I couldn't remember. So I want to give you right information, because sometimes on this show I do spew out false information unintentionally. But so you see these 2 teams. By the way, I think it's going to be a good Super Bowl. We'll predict our winners next week. This week is the Pro Bowl, and we're gonna bring that up a sec. But so here's the Browns. They're looking for their new head coach. And they're in a situation where things could turn around next year if they do the right things. That's a big if, big IF, if. And if they get the right head coach guy. So, candidate. So, first of all, here are the head coaches that were hired over the weekend. We'll start with today. There was a head coach hired today. Joe Brady, and I predicted this when the Bills opened up their, fired McDermott, about couple weeks ago. They have promoted offensive coordinator Joe Brady to be their head coach. There was a rumor about an Anthony Lynn reunion. There had been some talk about that, but Joe Brady was the guy because, 1, he's done a fantastic job there in Buffalo. 2, Josh Allen loves him. Josh Allen did not want him to go anywhere. He said last year that guy better never leave. He wants him in Buffalo for good. So that's going to keep Josh Allen happy. That's going to keep a lot of the players in the roster happy. And this is going to be a good young offensive coach that's going to get his chance to, on a very good roster, prove himself there. What we had, I forget if this was brought up on our last 10-cent beer night, but Jeff Havley of former defense coordinator of the Green Bay Packers was hired for the Miami Dolphins head coach position there. Of course, their new GM came from the Packers too, so he just brought a guy from the staff with him there. Robert Saleh is going to Tennessee, and then word today was Raiders had interviewed Brian Dable a second time for the head coach position. If he does not get that job, okay, because Bills were interested too, but Bills have filled their vacancy, he will go to Tennessee as their new offensive coordinator. So Saleh may have him on board. Pittsburgh Steelers filled their vacancy this past weekend with Mike McCarthy, a Super Bowl winning coach, actually beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl back in 2010 there. 10, 11. That was 2010. I was trying to go by memory there. So Mike McCarthy's in Pittsburgh. I take that hire seriously. There's a lot of like Browns fans that are laughing about it and whatnot, like, oh, he's going to run him down. No, McCarthy's a winner. He's won he won in Dallas too. It just Jerry Jones is a very impatient person. He expects a Super Bowl every year. And I mean, but he won 11. I think he averaged 11 wins. I mean, that's the worst case scenario you want is 10, 11 wins. And McCarthy did well over down there. And he's from Pittsburgh. He bleeds Steelers football. He is going to do whatever he can to win games in Pittsburgh. I take this hire very seriously. The other bitter rival, the Browns, the Baltimore Ravens hired Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator of the San Diego Chargers, okay? And Minter took his name out of the Browns running, but that's because he knew he was going to get the Ravens job. It all happened the same day, so that one I was understanding about. Because the Browns, we'll get to that in a sec, but Minter comes from the John and Jim Harbaugh coaching tree, both of them. He was with the Ravens as an assistant coach a few years ago under John, and then he joined Jim as defensive coordinator in Michigan and then Los Angeles Chargers. So this was just we're going to stick to the Harbaugh coaching tree, but we're going to get a fresh face and a fresh attitude, a fresh everything. So I take that hire seriously. All right, and so that's all so it's down to Browns, Cardinals, and Raiders, the least sexy positions. Yeah, I would have said in that group was Tennessee too, but Tennessee grabbed their guy fast. I think they got a good guy. I really do. They're just going to need patience with him because they just don't have the roster for to just win right away like that. But they did show some spunk last season. I'll give them that, and they did play a little better than I thought they were going to this past year. I thought it was going to be first overall pick again, and it almost was. So that's where we're at with the coach tree. And here's where it gets interesting with the Browns. So where are they at right now as I'm recording this show? Okay, they've had multiple candidates take their names out. Okay, one of them being Mike McDaniel, who also did it to the Bills. Okay. And he's now officially San Diego. Gosh, I was playing old school Madden over the weekend, so the Chargers were still in San Diego. The Los Angeles Chargers now offensive coordinator there, and so he took his name out. Grant Udinski, you probably remember me talking about him on the show last week. I predicted he was going to get the job. He's pulled his name out, and rumor has it he pretty much could tell after the second interview he wasn't getting the job in Cleveland. So Jacksonville has thrown more money on the table to keep him as their offense coordinator. So he was still in the conversation with the Bills job. But now that Joe Brady's been promoted, he's going to stay in Jacksonville officially. So this is a sign of Jimmy Haslam, though, okay? That you're having multiple coaching names pull their names out, mostly because of you. Okay, and they are doing the search different, where they're giving these coaches homework. They're evaluating them on a personality test and everything. So they're doing things different than all the other teams and what the Browns have done in the past. Because they can't get this hire wrong. They can't at all, or so many jobs are at risk here. I mean, you're playing with fire if you get this wrong. And So some of them just don't like it, so they're backing out, and that's what I guess was what Mike McDaniel's big thing was. That, or some guys just I said Mike Penn just recently retired. He didn't like being the head coach. That's like being the principal. He liked being the teacher. He liked being the assistant coach, the coordinator, calling plays and whatnot. And he just didn't like it. He did all obviously he got fired here, but he did have one decent season. But it just wasn't for him. Maybe that's the case with somebody like a Mike McDaniel, where it's like, hey, he's a hell of a play caller, but he just can't be in charge. He can't be the boss. And it's not everybody can be the boss at the end of the day. And so having all these names pull their name out, and again, like there was the exceptions, like I mentioned Jesse Minter, but Haslam's got to know his reputation's got to build better, and the environment for the Cleveland Browns has to just be overall better for people around the league to take them seriously again. So this is where they're at. It's down to 3 names. Yesterday it was reported it was down to Nate Scheelhaase, who just recently, he was going to interview for the Bills job. He may have. I don't know. But now that Joe Brady's been promoted, it doesn't matter, and nobody else is going for him. Scheelhaase was also interviewed by Pittsburgh, and I think Baltimore interviewed him too. So teams are interested. There's something about him these teams know, and it's caught their interest with him. Okay, pass coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. They lost over the weekend, so if they wanted to hire him, they could do it right away. Browns defense coach Jim Schwartz is a finalist as well. Players love him. The question is, who would he bring in as offensive coordinator? And would it be Scheelhaase? That's been discussed. That's on the rumor mill, because that's a promotion for Scheelhaase should the Browns want to go that route. And they could pay him a handsome amount of money, and he would do the play calling for them. And he is a vertical passing type play caller, okay? And the last candidate, and Adam Schefter has confirmed this morning that his name is still very much in the conversation, is former Ravens and soon-to-be Giants offense coordinator, unless the Browns hire him for head coach, Todd Monken. Okay? Monken was offense coordinator under Freddie Kitchens a few years back. A little more than a few years back. It's hard to believe. Yeah, that was like 8 years ago. But he never called plays. Freddie Kitchens called the plays. And Monken called plays for the Ravens the past couple seasons. I thought he did a solid job. The Ravens wanted him fired at the end of the year, which led to Jim Harbaugh defending him and wanting to retain him. Led to his job being fired. So Monken, interesting choice. I mean, he's been around. He's been around for a while as a good play caller, and there's something about him that is keeping in the conversation. So we'll see about that. I do got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about a little bit more on the Browns head coaching thing, because there's a couple things I do want to talk about with that. Then we're going to switch to basketball. Cavs are red hot. They're back to their normal self. We'll talk about that and more. Stay tuned. And welcome back to my second segment of 10 Cent Beer Night here on Fifth Dimension Radio.com. I am Seth. And first of all, shout out to producer Bob here for last second editing for tonight's show. He usually gets a couple days because we do Mondays and we're doing Tuesday. Luckily for him, he doesn't have a basketball game to do tonight. So that's going to make things a little bit easier for him there as the snow and the weather has canceled school. What a great time to be a kid right now. High school, middle school, don't matter. All these days off here in Ohio. I mean, we don't get this a lot anymore. So this is kind of a big deal to them. And they haven't overdone it either where they have to make up for it yet. So take the days off while you can. It hasn't been too far from the holidays. And on top of that, President's Day will be here before you know it. And so you'll have another 3-day weekend. Just the perks of being at that age and whatnot. Kevin Stefanski's press conference with the Atlanta Falcons was today. No big news there. We do know that Bob Quinn, who left the Browns front office to join him down there, Quinn used to be the GM of the Lions there. He actually may have been the GM of the Lions when Schwartz was head coach there. I'd have to look that back up. But, yeah, so Stefanski is bringing people from Cleveland down there. He did retain Tommy Rees as his O coordinator, and this one shocked me. He did announce at the press conference, Rees is going back to play calling. I thought Stefanski was going to take his play calling duties back, being in Atlanta, but no, he's going to let Tommy Rees do the play, and that's smart on Stefanski's part. I'll give him that. I think Rees did a solid job with the play calling, and I think it's going to be a one-and-done year. I think either a collegiate school is going to pick him up, or he's going to have a good enough year next year. A NFL team's going to pick up. For head coach, both, either or. Dead serious. I think he's a hot name right now. He just didn't do enough this past year to get him the great opportunity. But, you had Michigan and Penn State pencil him as a top 5 idea as their new head coach. Those are two huge programs when you've never been a head coach before. So there's something about it here with Tommy Rees. So we'll see what happens. We wish Stefanski the best of luck in Atlanta, but they have issues of their own to figure out, which is not a terrible situation down there. A lot of good playmakers down there. He has. It's just utilizing him right. I think if you're a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner, like in Dynasty or something, you're a little bit nervous because Stefanski kind of underused Chubb, in my opinion, and he might underuse Robinson too, and you don't want to hear that. But if Rees is calling the plays, maybe it's different, so we'll find out there. A development happened yesterday that is going to impact the Browns in their offseason, and some people might not think it's a big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than you think, okay? The Pro Bowl games, okay? Because it's not really a game anymore. It's kind of like a whole different thing. It's stupid, okay? I'm not going to watch it. The majority of people listening to this are not going to watch it. It's just, people just aren't interested. But if you make the Pro Bowl, it's still a big deal, okay? It's still in your contract. You were up there with some of the best in your conference, okay? Before yesterday, we only had 2 Pro Bowlers. We had Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. Okay, now I know news has got out. You probably already know this story, but if I would have told somebody last Sunday, before this news broke, Browns are getting a 3rd Pro Bowler, what would be their first reaction? It would be, probably Joel Bitonio, excuse me. No, it's not. I think he should be. Despite how bad the Browns' offensive line was, he was good. Okay? Maybe it's Mason Graham or Carson Schlesinger. No. It's Shedeur Sanders. Yes, for the second time since 1999, the Browns will have a Pro Bowl quarterback. Okay? Some people, if you haven't heard the news, you're probably wondering, how did that happen? Okay, one, Drake May going to the Super Bowl opened up a spot, and that's actually the spot Sanders is replacing. Bo Nix is hurt. Josh Allen is hurt. Okay? Lamar Jackson is kind of beat up there. Pat Mahomes is hurt. Okay? So, and NFL actually respects the fan voting. So who was next over Trevor Lawrence was Shedeur Sanders. So they said, by our rules, how this works, he did go 3 of 4 in his 7 games he played. So he did win some he won half the games, Shedeur, and it's viewership too. He's got a following. Let's be honest here. Shedeur Sanders, you've been selected to go to the Pro Bowl. And this is a bit, okay, the last Browns quarterback to go to the Pro Bowl, Derek Anderson, 2007. All right. Brady Quinn did not go to the Pro Bowl. I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. He just didn't. Tim Couch never went to the Pro Bowl. Baker Mayfield, who won the only playoff game since 99, did not go to the Pro Bowl. And that year, he should have. I will still argue that. He should have been a Pro Bowl quarterback then, okay? Joe Flacco, in 23, did not go to the Pro Bowl. But Shedeur Sanders, with more interceptions than touchdowns, and I understand most of his interceptions were not his fault. I will defend that. Goes to the Pro Bowl. And this is why it's a big deal. Now you have, first of all, it's a rookie Pro Bowl quarterback. It's a fifth-round Pro Bowl quarterback. The last fifth-round pick to make the Pro Bowl was Puka Nacua of the Rams, who very talented wide receiver, no denying that. But this is why it shakes things up. Now, in your quarterback room, you have a recent Pro Bowl. I said recent because Deshaun Watson was a Pro Bowler at the time too. But you got a recent Pro Bowl quarterback. And he has that title now on his career. That's going to go. He's going to take that in next contract talks, no matter if he's playing for Cleveland or not. And I hope it is Cleveland. I do really like the guy. I think his accuracy is off the charts. I think he's got the great mix of power and accuracy. It's just he's got to read the field a little bit better. He's got to have more confidence, I think, in making the tough play when it's necessary. And he needs an offensive line to protect him to give him a little bit more time. A couple more seconds. He doesn't need to hold the ball forever. But I think there's a ton of potential there. I really like what I said. And I thought his wins against Pittsburgh and Cincinnati were huge, especially the Cincinnati game-winning drive. I thought that was huge for him. So I want to see it work out. I don't want to see him draft a quarterback this coming draft. I don't. There's a couple ideas I have that I'll make an exception if I'm put at gunpoint and have to make one, and we'll get to that closer to the draft. But not first round. I'll tell you that. That's what I'll tell you. Not the first 3 rounds. Okay? There is one guy I think should get considered a look if we absolutely have to, and I'd rather not. Okay? But you now have a Pro Bowl quarterback recently on the roster. It's a good look. It really is, and I think it is shaking things up in his favor, you know. So we'll see. Again, we don't even have a head coach right now, but we'll see what happens there. But that was big for the Browns there. Cavaliers have been good. I mean, we're seeing the Cavs we know they are back. I will say that. Okay, last week, going by, let me see. I gotta pull this up here. Last week, let's see. Since our last 10 Cent Beer Night, we'll put it that way, okay? They're on a 4-game winning streak, and they went 4-1. They did lose roughly on Martin Luther King Day, 104-136 against the Thunder. That's where you wonder if still a move needs to be made, because if you lose that way to a team like the Thunder, there's still question marks somewhere, okay? They did beat the Hornets in Charlotte. 94-87. Friday they played the Kings, won 123-118. Kings are not a bad team by any means, so that was a good win. They swept the Magic in their back-to-back games with them 119-105, 114-98. That I think they're undefeated when playing an Eastern Conference foe back-to-back. That's a good thing. I do like that a lot. So right now, as we stand, and it's not going to change much since you hear this, conference-wise, they're now 5th. They're 20-20. They're 7 games behind first. They're a game and a half behind fourth. They're half game behind fourth, a full game behind third, and 2 games behind second. First place, believe it or not, is JB Bickerstaff's Pistons at 33-11, having a great first half. I'll give credit where credit's due. Cavs are 1-1 against Detroit. Okay. So they're scheduled this week. And yours truly will be there. Wednesday night, ESPN, 7 p.m. in Cleveland. The King, LeBron James, returns to Cleveland as the Lakers take on the Cavaliers. So that's going to be a good matchup there. And question is, will this be the last time LeBron is there in a Lakers uniform? More rumors are rumbling. We'll get to that in a sec. Friday, they're at Phoenix against the Suns, against their former assistant coach Kevin Ott. That's 9 p.m. on FanDuel. And they beat the Suns the last time they played them, so they're 1-0 there. Then, till our next 10 Cent Beer Night recording, I should say at least, Sunday, they're at the Trailblazers, 9 p.m., and I think they lost to the Trailblazers back December 3rd in Cleveland. So they're 0-1 versus. And Trailblazers have a good young squad. And by the way, that is their first game of February, too, against the Trailblazers there. And speaking of LeBron James, we announced the All-Star starters. It was breaking news during our last 10 Cent Beer Night taping. You know what went over my head I didn't realize? That was the first All-Star starters lineup announcement without LeBron James since his rookie year. It went over my head. Didn't even realize it. Because we're slowly getting used to the fact that we are going to see a league without LeBron James soon. And for the record, he's playing very well. You could not ask a 41-year-old to play as well as he's playing right now. He's still doing 25 to 28 points a game, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Type around. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's around there. It's very productive performances, especially 41 years old. Okay? And the rumor mill is heating up as far as when's the end and what's he going to do about it. And rumors happened this weekend. There was two reports. Okay, one was if Lakers decide that they will trade him, and I don't know the chances of them trading him. Okay, I prefer not a trade, but they said they will only talk to Cleveland out of respect of what would be best for him and what they could get back too. All right. Now, to put in perspective of would anything be close, somebody asked a member of the Lakers front office back in December, would you trade LeBron and Bronny to Cleveland for Jared Allen and DeAndre Hunter? And the front office representative said, we would. I don't think the Cavs would. So they made it known if it's something that is possibly younger that will impact them right now and their future better, they'll do it. But they know Kobe Altman well enough to know that he's just not going to part with that. That's why I keep saying a buyout is going to open the door for him for sure coming back here. And will there be a buyout? I mean, right now the Lakers are not in any shape to be talking finals this year. They're not a bad team, but they are a team that needs to take the necessary next steps for their long-term future, and he's just not there. And more's coming out that old ownership, because they're under new ownership now, was very frustrated with him. Okay? And so they just might be ready to move on there. The other report that came out was, I guess, Stephen A. Smith of ESPN told him, you need to go back to Cleveland. It's where you belong. All right? Now, if you know Stephen A. Smith, he's a big Knicks fan. Cleveland gets in the way. He don't like Cleveland getting in the way. He was mad Donovan Mitchell signed an extension with Cleveland. He wanted nothing more but to see Cleveland lose Donovan Mitchell and not be the Cleveland Cavaliers that we have known the past 20-some years. But I think he's a big LeBron fan at heart. He doesn't want to see it all end the way it's going right now with a struggling Lakers team and just not in the conversation whatsoever at a finals run. But I'm going by my wishes now here, but I think would greatly serve LeBron's conclusion of his career. A buyout and just say rest of the year in Cleveland this year. Just, not even going for because I do think he's got one more year left in him after this year, okay, my opinion. A buyout and coming to Cleveland on a cheap deal, which you can do, even with the second apron, there's a way around it. Put him on this team right now with Max Strus coming back from injury. You know how dangerous that team's going to look. Even if he's 41 years old, okay, he's not who he used to be, but let's say LeBron's got the ball. If you don't double team him, that's fine. He's going to take you on. If you do, you're leaving Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Sam Merrill, a healthy Darius Garland. I forgot he's injured too. Max Strus, any of those guys wide open. He's on a loaded team at that point. How do you argue? And he's going to toughen them up too. He's going to be that voice in the locker room. He's also going to show them, guys, this is what it takes to go to a finals and win it. And that's that's the final push I think they need. That's why I say I'm for it if it were to happen. I think it would be and again, I'm going by just this year. I did say he has, I think, another year left in him. But I think winning a championship in Cleveland, or Cleveland Cavaliers dream to see him go back-to-back, and the majority of his rings being in Cleveland, and ending on the highest note in Cleveland would be the story of a lifetime. It'd be a great story of his career. And here's the thing is, he loves it here, and he knows the love is nowhere. The love here is stronger than the love he's ever got anywhere else. They don't talk about it, but when the All-Star game was in Cleveland a few years ago, all right, they announced the starters. They got the crowd to get up and start cheering and get loud and whatnot. And again, they weren't announcing names. It was just the game's about to start. Everybody get excited, and they're all cheering and all that. LeBron James stood up, and he choked up. Tears going. He's a member of the Lakers right at this point. A couple tears coming out of his eye. He felt at home again for that mere couple seconds. He was a Cleveland Cavalier, and it felt that love again. He knows this. I'm telling you, he knows this. And he could be that missing piece. But, I mean, these rumors are getting hotter and hotter near trade deadline. I think something's in the talks. I'm telling you right now, something's going on, and I'm hoping it's a buyout. I don't want to trade anybody we have right now. They're starting to play well again. They're starting to be themselves. And again, this is without Darius Garland and Max Strus. This is just Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Sam Merrill, and Jalen Tyson, who's on the Rising Stars Challenge now. Okay, I gotta take a break. When we come back, we'll talk college basketball. Speaking of red hot teams, Ohio State and Akron playing very, very well right now. We could not be unhappy here in Northeast Ohio with how basketball's been played. Welcome back to our last segment here on FifthDimensionRadio.com. I'm Seth, and we're just having a good old warm time, and thankfully the studio is very warm because outside it's too cold. It's annoying cold, but it is what it is. But the college basketball is hot here in Northeast Ohio. Now this team's not Northeast Ohio, but we do love our Ohio State Buckeyes. They went 2-1 last week. On January 20th, they beat Minnesota 82-74 in overtime. On Friday, they went to Ann Arbor and played number 3 team up north. They did overall well. They lost, but it was 62-74, and the CBS Sports app was blowing me up about potential upset. Unranked Ohio State is neck and neck to number 3 Michigan, and they thought for a sec Buckeyes were going to pull it out in Ann Arbor, but they didn't. And then Monday, the 26th there, so this wasn't last week, but I would say 2-1 the past 3 games. They beat Penn State 84-78 there. Their next games, since our next 10 is Bear Night, just one game. Saturday, January 31st, they're at Wisconsin. That'll be on Fox at 2 p.m. So something to look forward to. The Akron Zips basketball, and let me tell you, if Bob was here, he would be all smutting with just how well they've been playing of late. Last week they went 2-0. Tuesday they beat Buffalo 82-63. And damn you, CBS Sports app, when you presented the final, you said they lost 82-83, and I was so mad at Target. I almost said something out loud I shouldn't have said. And then to find out they actually beat their butts. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Why would you report the false score? But I was so happy to find out they won, but I was so upset. I mean, I was like, I did not read it wrong. It said 82-83 when they first reported it. So they won 82-63. Friday, this was a big one. They won in Athens 86-65. had one of their best shooting games in team history. I'm not even joking with you. Just absolutely beat them up there. Lyles, 13 points and 11 rebounds. Tavari Johnson, 24 points and 3 rebounds and 2 assists. 19 points by Sama Scott off the bench. To beat up Ohio U in Athens like that, that's saying something. Akron's the real deal here in the MAC. This week, and this is where it's going to get interesting. Tonight, Tuesday, so you'll know the result by the time you hear this, and I haven't said that all show today. That's the first time. But 7 p.m. ESPN Plus, they're in Akron against Toledo. That's going to be good. Watch out, because Toledo's one of those teams. They'll be red hot in the regular season. They'll beat you any day of the week. And then in the tournament, they choke. But, again, they'll come at you. Friday. In Akron, 6 p.m., CBS Sports Network. The first Akron versus Kent game. Get ready. This is going to be good. And Kent's played pretty well of late, too. And then until our next 10-cent beer night, next Tuesday, they're at Eastern Michigan, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN+. But this week specifically, they're 16-4. They're second in the MAC. 7-1 in the MAC. Miami, Ohio is ranked. The team above them, they're 24th in the nation. 20-0, 8-0 in the MAC. Somebody's got to beat them. Akron, you got to find a way. Kent is 15-5, 6-2 in the MAC. Toledo's 11-9 and 5-3 in the MAC. So there you have it. Two of the toughest teams in the MAC they're going to go up against this week. That's something to look forward to. It'll be a test, but you know what? The way they've been playing, I'm very confident in it. And, John Gross has done a stellar job. This past season here. We're 13 days away from spring training. So we got to get MLB Hot Stove report. The big news happened this past week, and again, it's been good to be a Cleveland fan, even though with the pending Browns head coach situation. Cleveland Guardians agreed to another extension with Jose Ramirez. It's a 7-year deal. They exercised the last 3 years of the old contract. It's like $175 million. There are incentives for if he makes the All-Star game, becomes MVP award, World Series MVP if they ever get that far, and all that. It is till, let's see. It is till 2032. So his age 39 season. So he's pretty much, as long as they keep him and never release or trade him, and I don't think they ever will, he will officially stay as a Cleveland Indian / Guardian his entire career. And that's a big... And he did make the comment, I guess, if my sources are correct, I wanted to be happy, not have a ton of money. Which, for the record, okay, $175 million. That's still a ton of money, bro. But what he meant by that is he's a $300 million player easy. He's a top 5 player in the league. The MLB Network ranked their top 100 again. You know how the networks do their top 100 in the offseason for when the sport's coming up again. He was number 5 again. He's consistently in the top 5, which is a big deal. No, for number 1 among third basemen. So, this guy, he's a Hall of Famer, okay? They've even talked about where they're going to build a statue, okay? This is a beautiful thing. This was an undrafted free agent that they just plucked and said, let's get this guy on in our minor league system, see what he does. And one spring training, he caught Francona's eye, and he said, I really like what this kid produces on the field. He was shortstop for the Akron Rubber Ducks, and the Tribe's shortstop at the time, and I can't think of his name, got hurt. And people were like, oh, Lindor, call Lindor up, the top prospect. You got to call up Lindor. And they weren't, for contract reasons, they weren't ready to call him up yet. So they said, call up Jose Ramirez from Akron, and we'll put him at short. Nobody knew who he was. And he had a weird start to his career, too. He wasn't really batting the best. He fielded okay. And then the big story is the turnaround happened in 2016. We saw some spark in 15, but 16, when he played both third base and left field and then made a home at third base. And his bat was consistently just maniacal. Just so good. So, Guardians do that. Hopefully they get a Stephen Kwan deal done for their sake. But other than that, it has been quiet since the other big signings happened. I did see Dylan Carson is going to a minor league deal with the Cubs. Good player. Here, Cleveland lost out on this guy, and I'm shocked they keep passing him up. Harrison Bader signs a 2-year deal with the Giants for $20.5 million. This is a guy, I mean, guards could have afforded that. He could have played center field. Solid right-handed bat with a mix of contact and power. More contact, okay, than power. But speedy. He's got some underrated speed. And he's played very well for everybody that he's played for. And every time he's a free agent, they kind of just don't give him the time of day. And it's like, why not? His best season coming in 2021, he hit 267, 16 home runs, and 50 RBIs for St. Louis. That was his best batting season. Last season, he played for Minnesota and Philly. Okay. He hit 277, 17 home runs, 54 RBIs. This is what I'm talking about. These are solid numbers. For a role player, a center fielder, he's got a solid glove. He's got one gold glove. I don't see the year he won it, but he does have one gold glove. How the hell do you let this guy just go? Like, I get it. You got some guys you're calling up. They were talking about Chase Lautner recently, who's expected to be one of their starting outfielders. He could be center field. But it's like, you could use all the help you could get, and Bader just fit what you were looking for. He could be a top-of-the-lineup guy with Quad and Jose. This is what I'm talking about. This guards front office is just a joke to me at times. It's just like, man, this is a wise investment. It's not going to cost you $100 million. He's playing for $10 million a year, which, by the way, is up your alley. That's affordable for you. For us normal folks, for me and producer Bob here, we would take $10 million. Oh my gosh, like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, get rid of my debt, maybe feed the poor or something. But, like, for these guys, that's chump change. And you have chump change to spend. You do have that money. Now, good thing, Paul Dolan sounds like he's on his way out soon. And it's a good thing, because this is embarrassing. Just to continue to let players walk there. So I really hope that some of their younger players are going to play on the field develop pretty fast. There's going to be a learning curve at the beginning of the season. I mean, you're going to have Bazana there at second base. There's going to be a learning curve. You know, I think I did preach to them about getting Bo Bichette for short there. He's going to play third base for the Mets. You know, and I was telling Bob that we were talking about, because Mets traded for Freddie Peralta last week. Okay, and I just told him, I think I made myself laugh here. I said, Mets are the National League Angels. They spend all this money, they make all these flashy moves, and then it just doesn't pan out. Angels were not that way till after they won their World Series, and they're like, you know what? We have to show more big California too. We're not, not just the Dodgers or the A's. We have to show them. They all go out and get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which, by the way, not junior, excuse me, senior. By the way, that was an incredible investment. It was everything else they put around him that didn't pan out, and that was the problem. They just now finally got rid of Anthony Rendon. They re-exercised his contract, and then I think they designated him for assignment. That did not work out. You want to talk about one of the worst contracts in baseball? That was worse than Chris Davis. That was horrid. He never was the same. You had minor leaguers playing better than him. That was just terrible. So I get, like, Cleveland doesn't want to invest in the wrong guy, because you see the problems here, and but at the same time you got to do something. You know who has an underrated offseason? You're going to hear me talk when me and Bob have our early baseball predictions, and we're still a month away from that. But if we're talking off season right now, so I'm going to bring it up. You know who has had one of the most underrated off seasons and nobody's talking about? Because people are just talking about the Dodgers and Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz are talking about the Mets and all their moves and everything. The Pittsburgh Pirates. Oh my goodness, they're going to be the most improved. I have them early, and we're going to bring it up again, and we'll see because there's still so much time. I have them potentially winning 80-plus games and missing the playoffs. And the reason is they've had one of the better off seasons total. You've had Ryan O'Hearn, who is one of the most underrated bats in the entire league. The perfect mix of power and contact. That's not superstar level. I would say all-star level, yes, not Shohei Ohtani. But this is a guy that could get you 24 to 30 home runs a year and bring you in 80-some RBIs and hit you 270, 280. He's a good bat. They brought him at first multi-year contract they had brought in years. Okay. They go in and trade. I was trying to remember this guy's name at heart here, but I'm gonna have to look it up here. They have a lot of top prospects that are expected to come out and make the opening day roster. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this up here. Yeah, because I'm going to pull up their prospect list because there's one guy, he's at the top of the league. Connor Griffin, shortstop and outfielder. You have Bubba Chandler, he could come up. Hunter Barco could come up. Seth Hernandez, Edward Florentino. Those are just some of the names, but we're talking about in the rotation with Skeens, giving Skeens some help. Remember, Skeens could have won 30-plus games last year. He was that good. The other teams had nothing on him. Let me pull up the roster here. You still have O'Neal Cruz there. You still have Brian Reynolds. It's his birthday today. While we're talking about that. Brandon Lowe, the second baseman they got from the Tampa Bay Rays. One of the better power hitters in the game. He's going to hit for you 220, 230, but he can get you 40 home runs. No joke. He's got that power. Spencer Horwitz is still there. Decent player. That's what I'm saying. And then plus their prospects. I'm telling you, if healthy, this team could be fun to watch this year. I'm telling the National League Central is going to be one of the most underrated divisions. You're going to have Milwaukee there, who is going to do good. I mean, they got a good package for Freddie Peralta. I mean, trading with Freddie Peralta, I don't think was on top of their list, but what they got back from the Mets was pretty solid. I mean, guys that are ready to go now. So you're going to have that. The Cincinnati Reds, they made the playoffs last year. I keep telling Bob, this team's in better shape than a lot of people will give them credit for. I just saw Ellie De La Cruz turn down a 7-year deal last year. Good money on the table, hundreds of millions of dollars on the table. I don't know why. He's got to get his batting average up. Great player, phenomenal athlete, good fielder, great speed, good power too for a guy his type of hitter. He doesn't hit for out. He gets on bad slumps and he strikes out a lot too. But the Reds are going to be, and then you have Pittsburgh, Chicago Cubs. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a toss-up. But it's they're going to be interesting. And then you're going to have St. Louis. St. Louis might be the worst out of that group. I think Pittsburgh's going to turn around there. So there's a little bit of baseball talk for you. I got to wrap it up now. Next week, I do anticipate we'll talk about the Browns' new head coach. I think it's going to happen by then. I really, really do. It could happen later today. It could happen tomorrow. Whatever. It could be happening while you're listening to this. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Cavaliers, and also rumor. I expect Donovan Mitchell to be announced a reserves Eastern All-Star by then too, potentially. If they're going to announce that by then, I don't know. I think he will be our only one too for that one. We'll talk about the Buckeyes and the Zips. Big week for the Zips this week. We'll see what happens. We'll also catch up to you about Buckeyes and Zips football transfers too as well. We didn't get to that today, but gives us another week to look back on it since we did a bunch of that last week. So guys, stay warm. Take care of each other. It is hectic out there. Just be good to each other. No more snow necessarily this week. It's just going to be bitter cold, so the snow's going to stay. So watch out for the ice. Watch out for the black ice. And just, again, be very, very good to each other. So I'm out of here. With that all being said, go Zips, go Buckeyes, go Cavs. Let's keep this basketball thing rolling. And make sure you follow the Fifth Dimension Radio page and the 10 Cent Beer Night page for updates on the high school basketball broadcast. No game this week, but next week will be a different story. So I'm out. You guys take care.